Hey everyone, welcome back to Best 1031 Online. Shot here in the 805 studios, the channel where we cover everything you need to know about 1031 exchanges from the basics to advanced strategies. I'm 1031 Broker James, and today we're diving into the fascinating history of the 1031 exchange. Understanding the origins and evolution of this powerful tool can give us a better perspective on how it works today and why it is so valuable for real estate investors. Let's get started. The 1031 exchange wasn't always the structured process we know today. It's evolved for more than 100 years, shaped by economic needs, tax law revisions, and court cases that influenced how we think about property and capital gains. Here's a breakdown of how it all began. Back in the 1920s, as America was rapidly urbanizing, the federal government was also refining its approach to income taxes. In 1921, the government passed the Revenue Act, which introduced a provision allowing taxpayers to exchange certain types of property without recognizing gain immediately. This was the earliest form of what we now call the 1031 exchange, although it was far less formal and structured than it is today. The original intent was to allow farmers, business owners, and real estate investors to exchange assets, primarily land and equipment, without having to pay a capital gains tax every time they made a trade. It was a way to encourage growth and reinvestment. Fast forward to 1954. The tax code went through a big overhaul, and Congress saw an opportunity to expand the concept. The IRS introduced Section 1031 as we now know it today, adding more structure to the exchange rules. This was a huge turning point where exchanges were no longer just an idea. They were formally defined in the tax code with clear guidelines. This meant that property owners had a defined path to defer taxes if they met the requirements. But it was still limited. One thing we often take for granted today, the concept of like kind, was much stricter back then, limiting the types of property that qualified. Then there was the 70s and 80s, which brought on one of the most important changes brought by the landmark Starker case in 1979. Until then, exchanges had to be simultaneous, meaning you had to trade properties at the same time. Logistically, a huge challenge. That changed with the Starker family, who argued that they should be allowed to delay receiving their replacement property in an exchange. The case went all the way to the court, and the Starker family won. The decision paved the way for delayed exchanges, which is the foundation of the most 1031 exchanges performed today. In 1984, the IRS responded to the Starker ruling by officially incorporating delayed exchanges into the tax code. They introduced specific timelines that we still follow today: the 45-day identification period and the 180-day completion period. These timelines created a framework, making the process more accessible, but also more regulated. These additions were crucial because they brought predictability to the process. Now, investors knew exactly what was required to qualify for the tax deferral, and it became a common practice in the real estate world. With delayed exchanges becoming popular, it became clear that both parties in an exchange would need a middleman to manage the process, someone who wouldn't compromise the integrity of the exchange. That's where the Qualified Intermediaries, or QIs, came into the picture in 1991. QIs act as the neutral party who holds funds during the exchange process. This was a game changer, because it opened up 1031 exchanges to a wide range of investors, providing structure, security, and compliance in the transaction. The 2000s saw a real estate boom, and the use of the 1031 exchange exploded. However, as with any boom, abuses of the system grew too. In response, the IRS introduced more stringent guidelines and audits to curb abuses, focusing on property types and proper use of QIs. The government made it clear that the 1031 tax code was not a loophole, but a legitimate incentive for reinvestment. Misusing it could lead to penalties and loss of benefits. So staying informed became more important than ever. Finally, in 2017, we saw the last major change with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. This act restricted the 1031 exchanges to real property only, eliminating personal property like equipment and artwork from qualifying for exchanges. While this narrowed the scope of the 1031, it also solidified its importance in the real estate sector. Now, 1031 remains one of the most powerful tools for real estate investors to defer taxes and grow their portfolio as long as it's done right. So there you have it, a brief history of the 1031 exchange, from its beginnings in the 20s to the refined process we use today. It's clear that the 1031 exchange was designed to encourage growth, reinvestment, and the continuation of investment properties. If you want to know how to use these rules to your advantage, stick with me here on Best 1031 Online. I'll be diving deep into strategies, case studies, and more tips to help you make the most of your investment opportunities. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Until next time, remember, the best 1031 is a successful 1031. Invest wisely.